Cavaliers and Raptors. Toronto coming off a Game 3 win, snapping a 12-game playoff losing streak against the Cavs. Cleveland, meanwhile, looking to avoid back-to-back losses following a 7-game win streak in the first round. We pick it up 5 minutes to go in the fourth. Cavs up by 3, extends their lead. Donovan Mitchell with the 3 there. 2 minutes left in regulation. R.J. Barrett gets his layup blocked. Raptors get the rebound and kicks it out to Brandon Ingram, who drains the 3. Just under a minute left in regulation here. Barrett driving, gets the contested layup to fall, and the Raptors down by 1. The Cavaliers, though, would not quit. 27 seconds left. Mitchell driving, misses the contested lay. Brandon Ingram with the rebound, gets the ball poked away here, out of bounds. Refs call Raptors ball. The Cavs had no challenges left, so the call on the court would stand. Next Cavs possession, Mitchell trying to find a shot there. It doesn't fall, so it'll be Raptors ball. Toronto would go on to ice the game at the line and go on to win it 93-89 as they even this series in the first round, and it shifts to Cleveland for Game 5 on Wednesday.
Great news, Spurs fans. Welcome back. Victor Wembanyama cleared from concussion protocol and back in the starting lineup for Game 4. The Spurs looking to take a commanding 3-1 series lead back home early second, and Wemby off the curl, slamming it home with one hand back like he never left. Spurs down 2. Wemby looking just fine. Mid-second now, Deni Avdija with the fadeaway J. Part of his team-high 26 points as the Blazers up 17 at the half. 12-0 all-time in the playoffs when leading by 17 or more points at the half, by the way. Keep that in your pocket. That's Devin Vassell, who finishes with the slam mid-third. Vassell again with the midi. 17-point deficit evaporated. Now, early fourth, Stephon Castle lobbing it up to Wemby for the reverse alley-oop. Spurs up 4. Wemby finishing with 27 points, 11 rebounds, and 7 blocks in his return. Now, mid-fourth, De'Aaron Fox drilling the step-back tray to put the Spurs up 10. He finished with a game-high 28. Spurs, they go on to win easily, right? But take a look at this, some chippiness late. Castle drives, gets swiped by Avdija, lays it up in, plus the foul. But after the call, Castle gives the ball right back to him, and he takes exception, pushing and shoving between the two. They had to be separated. Both players receive text. The Spurs, though, they get the last laugh because they roll to the 114-93 win. That's tied for the largest playoff halftime comeback win in franchise history. As for the Blazers, their first playoff loss when leading by 17 or more points at the half in franchise history. That's now back-to-back playoff wins when trailing by at least 15 points for the first time in franchise history for the Spurs. The Blazers, they suffer their 8th loss in their past 9 at home, but can they get a little revenge? It's going to be tough. They're on the road, Game 5 Tuesday in San Antonio. And we now welcome in CBS Sports NBA analyst John Gonzalez. And what a turn of events in Portland. Blazers leading by 19 at one point in the first half. The Spurs, they go on to just absolutely dominate the second half and going on to win 114-93. San Antonio becoming the first team in NBA playoff history to trail by at least 15 points at the half. And then you go on to win the game by 15 or more. But in your eyes, how are they able just to flip the switch there in the second half?
Yeah, they dominated at both ends of the floor in the second half. They outscored the Blazers 73-35 in the second half, and it was just, there's so much. You get so much of a boost from Victor Wembanyama, right? Because he comes back. He was in the concussion protocol. I was shocked that he even got on the plane to Portland. He didn't play in Game 3. Ends up going out there in Game 4 and having a 27-point double-double. But really, his biggest impact, Kiana, was at the defensive end, where he goes for 4 steals and 7 blocks. And not surprisingly, as a result of that, the Spurs absolutely dominated the points in the paint. When he's out there, the paint is a no-fly zone, and that's a problem for the Blazers because Deni Avdija, who is their best player, likes to get into the paint. He likes to go downhill and drive, and that's a really difficult thing to do when you get there, all of a sudden Victor Wembanyama is lurking. And even though Deni had a pretty good game tonight, 26.7 rebounds, 3 assists, it just wasn't enough, and that's kind of hard to say because, if you're the Blazers, you need a big game from him to have a chance. You got it, and you still weren't in this thing because you absolutely collapsed in the second half. And I'm looking at a guy like Donovan Clingan, who's been an absolute disaster in the series. And then poor Scoot Henderson, he was big earlier in the series. Tonight, 27 minutes, 0 points. So the Spurs just put them on absolute lockdown in the second half, and that has everything to do with Wemby.
I want to go, let's dive more into Wemby, shall we? Because he showed no ill effects from that concussion, scoring 27 points to go along with those 11 rebounds and 7 blocks. But I want to take your impression of just his performance we saw in Game 4.
He's ridiculous. I mean, again, 7 blocks alone. If you're saying 7 blocks in a single game, that's otherworldly. There's a reason why he's the defensive player of the year and likely will be for the foreseeable future, if not for the stupid 65 game threshold. If he didn't have to clear a certain bar there, it would be his in perpetuity. The only thing that can possibly hold him back from winning it moving forward for the next, 5-10 years is if he doesn't play that many games. So on top of the 7 blocks, he has those 4 steals, and there were just nothing the Blazers could do to combat him on the defensive end. And then the offensive end, he was spectacular again. And that's really where he's leveled up this year, Kiana, where we all know what a phenomenal defensive player he is, but he's still figuring out what he can really do offensively. And when he really levels up on his game, when he finally really gets a consistent outside shot and then realizes that, and he did more of that this year, realizes that, I'm 7'4" or 5, and I can just dominate everybody in the paint. It's a wrap for everybody. And the Blazers, they didn't have an answer for him. Again, Donovan Clingan, not that guy. And then they did something pretty interesting, I thought, which was that they threw Drew Holiday at Victor Wembanyama a bunch. And that's sort of reminiscent of what the Thunder did last year with Nikola Jokic, where they would put Alex Caruso on him because, the traditional bigs, if that's not working, we might as well switch it up and give him a weird look. And Drew Holiday's a pretty good defender anyway. So that was just sort of a last-ditch effort by the Blazers. And it's not their fault, right? It's not their fault that they don't have an answer for Wemby because nobody does.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the point right there. Teams are trying to figure out what can you do to combat him. Like you said, they couldn't combat him offensively or defensively in this game. So that takes me to my next question, because the series, it is shifting to San Antonio for Game 5. That's on Tuesday. Just given the way these last 2 games have gone for Portland, do you view this series as potentially over?
Yeah, I think it's a wrap. I had it in 5 for the Spurs. I gave them a game. In this game, I thought they came out gangbusters, and I'm thinking, okay, well, Victor Wembanyama's back, but the Blazers are playing their best basketball in the first half. What happens if they tie this up? You go back to San Antonio. Now the Spurs are in their head. They're thinking a little bit, but the way that the Blazers collapse in the second half, now it's in their head, right? That's a long flight from Portland to San Antonio where you're thinking, we just absolutely got run off our own floor after playing our best basketball in the first half. We played some of our worst basketball in the second half. And even if that hadn't happened, Kiana, the Spurs are just the better team, right? I mean, we all expected the Spurs to win this series pretty handily. I give the Blazers credit. They've had a great season. They've exceeded expectations. They really landed on something with Denny Advia. You're going to get Dame Lillard back next year. It's one of those things where, hey, we made the Spurs work a little bit harder than we thought, or maybe some other people thought that we were. And if they get a gentleman's sweep in Game 5 and they come back from San Antonio with the series completely over and they go into their offseason, that's kind of what we all anticipated was going to happen.
Backs against the wall, you're on the road, Portland trying to make something happen, but what it's looking like right now, Wemby is unstoppable, and we'll see if they can try to find a way to stop him in Game 5. As always, John Gonzalez, we appreciate you stopping by. Well, taking a look at the largest halftime comeback wins. This is just the Spurs playoff history. That's a long history of the Spurs in the postseason, and this one against the Trailblazers. Trailing at one point at the half by 17, you go on to win by 21. Talk about a turn of events that look to keep things hot on Tuesday.